Okay, today's St. Patrick's Day, and I thought I'd do something on my Irish heritage and to commemorate the day here and give a little esoteric knowledge along with, just some basic knowledge, I guess, of the holiday here. Here we see a four-leaf shamrock, or what's known as the lucky shamrock, but the regular one that you see is a three-leafed shamrock that's usually depicted, and indeed a four-leaf clover is an oddity, and it was something that was sought out. There are ancient Celtic rites that show you where what actually happened here was that the first rites of spring, before spring's day itself and the equinox that comes in, that in lower valleys and areas this plant would grow known as clover. It's edible and very good to eat. It's also known to cause good breath. It's kind of like parsley or something, and an after dinner type of unguent that you would eat along with your meal, and it helps and aids in digestion and had medicinal properties back in the day. And of course they would tell you these other things and you would eat it, your stomach would feel better, and you would think your ailments were going, things like that. And of course a lot of that psychological that works with it and stuff. But my mom had a pendant that looked very much like this, although hers was clear all the way through, and hers was the different type of clover, which has the slight white ring right around the inside of it. And a lot of these are formed now where they do them out of glass, and they'll have them with a glass bead, and they're trapped inside of there. But some of them also do have coins on the back of them, which they've tried to discourage, but in doing so I think they just made them popular. But you can have them with an Irish penny or coins or something like that that you have in the backgrounds too. Quite often a dime is real popular to go along with them, and so on. And so one other picture I want to show you with a difference between a three and a four-leaf clover, or a shamrock, is let's see if I can find this picture for you again that I saw. Of course, I've just looked here and just rambled off of, well, here's one that's like it, but not the same, so let's just go with that. So now we can also maybe perhaps see some symbology that's in with shamrocks that have to do with this four-leaf clover idea, and the sign of luck, or good luck, is shown in this same swastika that's found around the world, and is not really some World War II thing, but it actually is found in India and all the Proto-Indo-Europeans that all populated from Ireland itself all the way through to Asia, all the way down into India, through and into Egypt, all of Arabia and the Middle East, and Anatolia, and so on, and then back up through. And so you can see this symbology, I guess, if you look at it and you think about it in that way. But so there's a symbolic thing too, and this is much like the one that my mom had. Terrible picture there. Oh no, much better picture now. And you can kind of see that whitened ring that's around it there. And that's the type that she had. And my sister has it now. It's in one of those glass brooches. And they take quite often and put that glass brooch on the inside of a cross like that. So it's known as a Celtic pendant. And there's a lot of them that have three. And of course there's, if you'll look at this, the three symbology one would be one up, one down, one over here, and then the stem or the sprig or the root that goes down here, and it's symbol with triads. And of course Celtic had a lot of triad knowledge in their stuff, and a lot of symbology in their things also, and so this was an easy fix, or an easy compute with it, whenever you find that of course these triads from these ancient Proto-Indo-Europeans had for so long. This is very much like my mom's, but it goes out to the edge. Hers was a see-through glass pendant, something like this, but it had a gold rim around it, very much like that, but it had the white ring version in the inside of it. Anyhow, and of course you find this like in your mom's jewelry box and stuff like that, and that was pretty neat to see whenever you were a kid, and her showing her symbolic jewelry that she had and stuff that she would really never wear. Maybe once, twice, three times in my whole life she wore some of this stuff, which was kind of odd, but then it showed a more symbolic nature and something that she would only do at certain times of the year, certain things, and which showed me a lot of things. So let's look into St. Patrick here real quick. Now Patrick, of course, in Latin would be Patricus, or in Irish is Padraig, like Padraig Harrington that you know of, and Welsh would just know it as Padraig. And he was known as a 5th century Romano-British Christian missionary and bishop to Ireland. He's known as the Apostle of Ireland, and he's primarily the patron saint of Ireland, and the other patron saints being Bridget of Kildare and Columba. He is venerated in the Catholic Church and Anglican Communion, Lutheran churches, and the Old Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodox Church, equal to the Apostles or the Enlightener of Ireland. And you can see things in this. Well, let's just look at it here real quick. This is a stained glass window, which it won't let me. Let's see if I can do it like that. No, you're not going to let me see it. There we go. That's more of a full screen. Can't quite see the top of his Dagon hat there, which is kind of important in what I'm trying to say here. See if I can get this thing to move for me. You're not going to do that either. Okay, that's great. Okay, well, at the top of it here, he has a 3-clovered point. There's another one right here on his forehead that's probably barely invisible right there. That's a fleur-de-lis, a 3-pointed fleur-de-lis, but the one at the top here is a shamrock style. He's got a shamrock in his hand, right? You can also see that symbolically behind him is the sun, and so the halo of divinity and bringing light, the light bringer, and his staff shows a sun symbol, fire inside of a ring, right? And a lot of people say that's a leaf, and that's this, and then that's a fire set inside of a ring. And the ring actually has 12 dashes around the outside of it, and this is a zodiacal type concept. It's shown in a lot of these arts, so these people back then and the artisans knew what esoteric things to put into art to show you the symbolic things. But fleur-de-lis also contains this same type idea. Now, another concept here too to show you is that the sun was known as Shamash, right? Or Shamash, Shams, known to the Chaldeans. Shams is the name of the sun. And so Shamrock, well, rock are an ancient bird, a giant bird, that's relegated to mythology, that used to be these giant birds that would take people up to heaven. You can see this recreated in the Lord of the Rings whenever the giant eagles come and save them and so on. This is almost like the idea of angels coming to save somebody. And I've shown you in the ancient symbology where the people would be put up on a dais and allow the birds to take their body in pieces away up into heaven. And when you see buzzards and they fly and they swirl, right? And how this symbology of ancient times when people would do these things. A lot of times, though, in ancient Ireland and a lot of these northern colonies, the people would not be able to be buried if they died during the cold of winter, and you had to wait until thaw. And they knew thaw had happened whenever you would see plants, very much like this, show up. And some people who might be starving at that time might even eat this plant as a form of nourishment. And so it gives you that idea, and it's also a symbol of evergreenness, right? That's why we have the green in it. And St. Patrick's always shown in green, and it's because of this plant and the symbology and the rebirth, right? Coming into spring and the ice leaving, and here comes the growth of new life that happens each year. His original color was blue, though. Yeah, even if you look into it, his original color was blue. In fact, you can still see that his undershirts and everything is blue. His outer robe on here they put on is always a green outer robe onto his symbolic blue, and his back headdress here was a blue or purple symbology. And behind him, the whole scenario is a blue or a waterborne concept. So I'm not going to go into this too deep. I mean, I could go way esoterical into it, but what we're going to do is just look at the confessions and things that they say. Now, he was supposedly taken as a child of about 16 years old, and that he was born someplace over in England or Britain, and then was grabbed by pirates, taken for 6 years as a slave, and he got away and came back, and that this had led to him perhaps being a priest in some manner or so. But a lot of people have looked into this. If you want to just wiki it, you can see this delicate thing here. But if for me to read it out to you, and go through the things that I know about it. Would take hours. I would really like to, but just odd ideas that they had in that there was an ancient tree, the ancient oak tree, that was worshipped. In Northern Ireland, they had one. In Southern Ireland, they had one. But both of them were an idea that St. Patrick had taken his own stick, his own walking stick, and stabbed it into the ground and was going to help the people. And then he would take the stick and walk off and go to another place and help the people. But he spent so much time there that it actually rooted and became this tree. And so they would say it was the sacred tree or the sacred grove. Again, going back to a Sumerian concept of the sacred grove and trees, but tying it with the Celtic idea of oaks and so on, right? That goes back, with Druids. And the oak tree was very sacred to these Pictish people. Now, Pict actually is a name of Latin, and it comes from Pictus, and it's how people used to tattoo themselves in this area. They were these people that would picture themselves or whatever. And of course, that's seen here, and it was seen also across the top part of Africa against the Mediterranean. And you can see it a lot in Egyptian art, and I've shown you where there's Egyptian people that are tattooed quite well in a lot of their art. But also, if you look in the Egyptian art, they always show you the Libyans, especially the fair-skinned ones that are like nobility. They are very tattooed all over their body and stuff, in places on their arms and stuff, and it seems like symbolically they were tattooed in that way. Anyhow, so that has to do with Picts, and I'll do one separately on a whole in-depth on Picts at one time too. It's the reason I don't want to try to get it later into here, but this apostate Picts, whatever that they had here, and Picts is something that goes back to this type of idea where you have a sun symbol that is its high reaching point, its low reaching point, and if you'll look here, there's a sun saddled in a crescent. And that symbology is seen from way, way back when and so on. There's always a bridge that leads these two together and a Z or a lightning mark that goes in between these two also. We'll get into that with a Celtic type thing. So I guess the only thing that I really want to tell you about this, other than the Shamash, and Shamrock and where that actual comes from, Ireland is supposed to be the Green Island, and it's why is it the Green Island? Well, it's actually right at the top part of the intercoastal currents that run across from North America, leaving a slight warmer sea than it should in that area. In fact, just south of there in the Farallon Islands and the other islands that are there, it's definitely almost a tropical situation, a little bit higher in the above equator than they should be. And this green island that they have here, an island symbolical as emerald green, it's the Emerald Island and so on. And of course, emmer is a type of grain, emmer barley and emmer wheat. And when we talk about emeralds, we're talking about a green plant that is a gemstone to life, if you will, in an ancient symbology. And that's why we have emeralds named for something that is a bright green color, and that shows a sign of growth. It's like having a plant indoors, if you understand that symbology, having that there. Well, look at the ancient Sumerian stuff. They had plants indoors, and they're next to it, they're actually farming and gardening back at those old days. It's always said that St. Patrick had banished all the snakes from Ireland, but of course, whenever they look in the geological record, there really was no post-glacial Ireland. It never had snakes. In fact, you can go to this part right here, and it'll show you that there was only one land reptile species, this little common lizard here, that was on Ireland past the Ice Age that they can find in any geologic record. And before that, really not much to speak of. So it's not like there was a bunch of snakes and he banished them away, but it's more that there was some snake worship also, an ancient Celtic dragon and serpent worship that was going on, that's still attached into your Bible with Tiamat, and then the idea of Leviathan, and how this god had taken over this. And so, we just don't talk about that anymore, but apparently that was something big because the Bible talks about it, right? So you have this flip-flop thing of where if it's pagan, then why would you think so highly of it to have mentioned it so much and call it a god? Like when it says other gods, thou shalt not worship other gods, and you're like, oh, so there's a bunch more. Where are they? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. No, let's not get into that today, though. We're really more about St. Patrick and stuff. But here he is supposedly banishing snakes. So he banished all the snakes out. So he just goes around talking crap, and they all just crawled and left and went into the ocean and died, you know. There's your idea. St. Patrick's stick grows into a walking tree or into a living tree, which I showed you there. During his evangelization journey back to Ireland from his parents' home, perhaps at Burdoswald, he is understood to have carried with him an ashwood walking stick or staff. He thrust the stick in the ground wherever he was evangelizing at the time, known as Ashpatria, the Ash of Patrick. And whenever we look at Patria, now we start looking at patriarchs, Patria, Pater, the fathers. And you look at some of these old churches and how they have these points and dragons on the end and all these gargoyles and things. And you wonder where all that comes from. And it's this, oh, it's this pagan type thing they talk about and everything. You're like, no, that's attached into the religion when they made this place. It's attached into the religion. Moses had horns, but back then horns was a good thing. You could be the Grand Imperial Poobah, like in Fred Flintstone. This goes way back, you know, and you can see a lot where the horned animal was the one that had a little bit of power and so on. And of course now, oh, that's just pagan as hell, but there's an odd twist to it, you know, and this idea of who the devil is and these people that were perhaps, you know, Satan means adversary. So let's not go too deep into that, though. Today, really, St. Patrick was supposedly spoke with his ancient ancestors and stuff, and that he had seek to convert warriors into Christianity while they defend their pagan past, their pagan lifestyles of the warriors of fighting and feasting and living close to nature is contrasted with a more peaceful but unheroic and nonsensical life offered by being Christianity. And it's odd whenever they do this, is these monks, they try to spread the idea that everybody should be a monk. But if everybody's a monk, then who are they spiritually helping? Well, all this themselves. Well, are we all supposed to be in a Shinto shrine? Are we all supposed to be Buddha? Or is Buddha supposed to bring enlightenment to the people that are doing the things other than that? Anyhow, you know, there's studies here, the four masters, all these things, these people talk about it. There's a lot of declination to it, showing you that these crosses that go with it. And again, you know, the cross, the Celtic cross, the cross, that looks very much like, oh, the German cross and so on, that you see all of those big four crosses is an ancient symbol that goes way back. It's an ancient phonetic writing and so on, Phoenicians, and it means a place, a locale. Whenever they talk about it being the Nile, it shows you that it's not a people of the Nile, but a designation of the place. And so X marks the spot, and so on, in ancient maps. But this badge, if you will, or this symbol that you have, is really like a four-leaf clover, and very much like a swastika, if you will, in the same day look that people make to this day. And so, in fact, this one is a swastika. It's bent. It's it shows you the way that it goes, and of course, it's an 8-pointed star. There's 4 points, and then there's 4 points that come out tassels. There's 4 points. There's 4 points. There's 4 and there's 4. There's 4 and there's a bisecting, and then 2 unions of seasons. There's a 4 and a 4. There's a 4 and a 4. I don't know if you can see that in the little pictures, God. And I said all that. Now we're looking at it a little bit better here. But yeah, these crosses, this symbolic cross, right? And these are ancient here, but symbolic going all the way through the ages. St. Patrick's bell is actually a cowbell. Dingle, dingle, ding. That's a cowbell. It's an incredibly intricate, inlaid, jewel-encrusted cowbell, right? And its encrusted jewel is the clear or see-through jewel encrusted around by rubies, and that clear or see-through jewel is clarity, but it also designates April, as we have, and that signifies coming into the season of spring, where it's usually demarcated in the Ides of March, right? And so that symbolic of this plant showing up at the Ides of March leads into the idea of when spring's going to leave. It has all to do with the Groundhog Day, people. It has to do with when will it end and so on, and when will people, plant crops. This is the symbols that come at this time. It lets you know, here we go, here it comes, and these things. And so it demarcates certain things. This is almost like a pre-Easter, if you will. And so other two are described as Patrick's goblets that he has, the Angel's Gospel, and Armagh, in this place, this ancient Celtic type stuff that all goes back to ancient Irish ancestry. And I could go on and on and on about it. Here's St. Patrick's Cathedral, and it's quite unique. And Rockefeller Center here in New York, this is looking down at it. And of course, and you can see how small the people here, the giant size of this beautiful cathedral and its arch-like type points, looking like sun spikes, if you will. But the symbology with Shamash and with sun and with St. Patrick and with the coming of spring and the three symbols that go with that and the four, and he's even holding his hand in the symbol there, and St. Patrick of Ireland. Are you wearing green today? Because they would wear green in honor to help herald it in. They help to make the springtime come in. It was a want or a wish. And of course, women wear fancy dress today, and they dress, and you only wear white after Labor Day, and all these type things that you do, right? And you wonder where all this comes from. Where's this concept come from? It all comes from symbology people would do, and people want green today, right? You ate greens in some way, fashion, hopefully at New Year's, hoping that brings you money, folding money, if you will. But that's a new thing. But it brings you green. It brings you crops. Well, how could it bring you crops? Well, if you're smart enough to have crap left over at the dead of winter that's green somehow, and you're able to make this happen, then you're gonna make it. And apparently, you can do it pretty good. So I'm guessing next year might look pretty good. Let's look to the seasons. So there's 4 seasons. There's a 4-leaf clover, right? It's a symbol of luck. Well, sometimes luck doesn't come into it. Sometimes knowledge and intelligence comes into it, right? Sometimes knowing these things makes all the difference. Here's a stone found at the bottom of St. Patrick's Well, and again, it's the four-cornered cross, this Celtic form that actually you can find from Sumeria to Egypt all the way through. And it's ancient rites and things that go back from the origin of time. So yeah, I just thought I would jump on that there and give you a little bit here about something about St. Patrick. And since we are at St. Patrick's Day, and may I say to all of you, Slainte, which is a greeting that you try to give to people, letting them know whenever they're going to have a drink. It's like a salute. But yeah, St. Patty's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day, people. Peace.